You're passing through another plane of existence. A plane not only of fights and wounds, but of pride. A journey to a horrific land with tantrums beyond imagination. That's the signpost up ahead, your next stop, the Tryhard Zone.
This isn't where I fell asleep. Hello? I must have died and gone to heaven. It's the only explanation. I have to have died in my sleep and gone to heaven. This is beautiful.
If this is heaven, where the heck is everybody? Maybe it's like a combo between Fallout and Battletech. Nah, too windy. That'll never work. And the best part is, there's time. All the time I'll ever need or want.
Alright. I think this will work.
Time enough at last.
It's a good spot for a game. We'll have to play alone. No biggie. Fine by me. Alright. We're all set up. I think this looks good. How about you? Yeah, it does. Let's roll for initiative. 12. How about you beat that? Well, I don't mind if I do. 12. We got ourselves a roll-off then. This is starting pretty good. And boxcars. Huh. Boxcars. 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 What? How? What's the point of playing if all I ever do is roll boxcars? I thought this was heaven.
Everything makes sense now.
I believe you're going my way.
Those who desire to win at all costs must understand that the price of victory is often prohibitive. Case in point, our protagonist, recently deceased with such a yen to win, beaten by the devil and by his own boredom. Tonight's cautionary tale of fairness and foulness. In the Tryhard Zone. I've been playing Battletech for almost a quarter of a century, and I want to bring the tabletop experience to as many people as possible. I want to have a great game with you. I'm Tuck Davian, and we're out on the open road, looking for players with guts to join us and feel the DACA on Battlebound. Good evening, Battletech fans.
Accessing.
While the system warms up, I want to take you on a little journey. Tonight, we're traveling off the beaten path that you're all well acquainted with to tell an alternate narrative that asks the question, what if? What if not everything is always as it seems? What if, even for one night of the year, anything was possible? Tonight, we take a trip into the world of that alternate narrative to find the answer. Be it some wisp of memory not too important, really, or some laughing ghosts that cross a man's mind. It's Halloween, and this is Tuck Davian's Halloween Havoc.
Dropship Nostromo, Deep Periphery, rimward of Capellan Space. 21:45 hours, 31st of October, 30:49. Communications Officer Herman Radio Rollins leapt up out of his chair facing the comm panels of Dropship Nostromo, throwing down the combo headset haphazardly. "Break time!" he exclaimed, as he made his way hurriedly toward the elevator that would carry him away from the ship's bridge and down into the other areas of the Union-class dropship. With him, he carried a small disc that he thumbed nervously in his pocket. "Deck 13, he told the elevator, which upon hearing his destination, began its descent. The agonizing seconds passed as the elevator slowly made its way down, stopping occasionally to allow other passengers on or off. Each time, Rollins removed his hand from his pocket to avoid suspicion, tapping his hands nervously against his thighs to pass the time, secretly hoping no one else would step off of the elevator with him at his destination.
Deck 13.
The elevator's trademark feminine voice said over the speaker. Rollins cautiously stepped out of the tube and tried to notice whether or not he was being followed. He breathed a muted sigh of relief when the door closed behind him and he did not hear any footsteps save for his own. Making his way down the corridors of the deck, he made sure to keep his head down and walk with a cadence that implied a casual stroll instead of a purposeful stride. He arrived finally at a door marked with the number 26. Rapping on the door with his bare knuckles, his heart thumped in his head as he waited for a response to his knocking. Moments later, Lance Commander Joseph Kumalo poked his head through the door jamb as the door slid open. His expression was already a mixture of confusion and surprise, and his brow furrowed upon seeing Rollins.
Rollins?
Kumulo began.
You're the last person I expected to darken my doorstep during duty hours.
Rollins tried as hard as he could to control the trembling in his voice as he responded. Wouldn't normally, sir, but this is a extraordinary circumstance.
All right, Rollins, all right. Come in,
Kumulo said.
What's eating you anyway? You're white as a sheet.
At this, Rollins blushed heavily and a modicum of color returned to his face. He reached into his pocket and removed the disc he'd stored there. I come to you because you're the only man on this tub I can trust with this, Rollins started. Less than an hour ago, I was manning the commo boards on relief duty, while Cornell and Broxton were down at the mess. The captain was busy plotting a course, so it was just me and the stars. All of a sudden, I hear a faint voice come in over the commo phones. Ain't no comm traffic coming in this far out here in the periphery that ain't scheduled check-ins or orders, and those would come in crisp. Okay, Kumulo said, a look of consternation forming on his face. I know you don't come clear down here to my barracks just to tell me about transmissions. Yes and no, sir. You see, this wasn't any kind of transmission we'd have any call to receive. It was way out of the ordinary. I was able to isolate it and enhance the audio quality once I zeroed in on the transmission signal. I've got it here on this disc, he said, holding the disc up to Kumulo's field of vision. You're going to want to hear this. Comsys is that way, Kumulo said, gesturing toward his wall-mounted computer terminal. Negative. Do you have a private deck not tied into the Nostromo that you can listen to it on? At this point, I'm half tempted to throw you out of here on GP, but the fact that you have the shakes has piqued my curiosity. Yes, I have my own deck. Kumulo removed a lap-sized computer from under his bunk and handed it to Rollins. See if you can't jack into this. Rollins opened the computer and inserted the disc. Typing a few commands into the keyboard, static began to emanate from the computer's external speakers until a voice could clearly be heard.
This is Lance Patrick Carew of the SLDF, 169th Division. Multiple divisions under attack. Casualties. Concordant forces closing in on weapon cache number 338. Memory core is also in jeopardy. Myself and 3 other commanders. Reinforcements. North of escape. We've hidden the cache in cores where we know the concordant forces won't find them. Coordinates and planetary data are attached to this message. Any receiving SLDF unit, use coordinates to recover the supplies and keep out of enemy hands. Godspeed, and long live Kerensky and the Star League!
A heavy silence hung in the room for a moment, and the two men stared at each other. The Star League weapons cache and memory core, Kumulo said, breaking the silence. An army which carried out that sort of power before it, he trailed off. Would be unstoppable, Rollins added, and continued. Thing's probably been floating around out here waiting for someone to pick it up for centuries. This isn't exactly the sort of thing Command would award any sort of finder's fee for, if you catch my drift. Kumulo stroked his chin. You're right. I could sure use some of that spice, though. Not to mention the coin it would bring for the information on the cores and whatever parts you couldn't find a use for. Yes, Kumulo agreed. Now you see why I brought it to you. I knew you'd see the cut of my jib. I can get you and your men down to the planet's surface. How? Well, we are currently in system keeping a low profile while we wait to move on the Cappies when the Fox decides to strike. When the orders come in for a planet to scout for touchdown, I simply change the planetary coordinates from one to the other, and you make sure your lance is named as Expeditionary Force. You go down, acquire as much of the goods as you can, and give the all clear. You can retrofit your men and call it routine maintenance. You simply make the swap when the weapons are reloaded onto the mechs, and no one's the wiser.
And what's your play?
Kumulo asked.
As we'll all surely be court-martialed and brought to mast if we're discovered.
For a share of the money gained from the sale of the excess, I'll risk court-martial for a nice retirement. Surely better than what the prince would provide me, and you'll have the tech you need to be king of the battlefield. And all the glory that brings with it.
I'm glad you brought this to me, Radio Man,
Kumulo said with a wry smile.
I think we can make this work.
Welcome back, Battletech fans.
Accessing.
Let's have a look at tonight's game by the numbers.
Accessing. Accessing.
Kumalo's Lance must scout the planet for any sign of Taurian Concordat forces, while simultaneously using the coordinates provided by Rollins to verify the existence of the SLDF cache mentioned in the message and recover whatever they are able. If Kumalo's Lance encounters any Taurian Concordat forces, they must be destroyed in order to recover the SLDF cache.
Alright, Battletech fans, tonight, the players embark on a mission in Taurian Concordat space to liberate a data core from an old SLDF bunker. What the players don't know, however, is that waiting for them are the old commanders who sent out the original distress signal that was picked up aboard the dropship Nostromo, and as soon as they liberate that cache, the monsters come out to play.
On an unnamed periphery world, Lance Commander Joseph Kumalo's Lance embarked on an illicit treasure hunt for ill-gotten gains, while keenly aware that he and his lance mates may encounter enemy forces seeking the treasure for themselves. Bewildered at the presence of the graveyard directly in front of them, they pressed onward, keeping their eyes peeled for the Taurians. With no enemies on radar, Kumalo ordered his lance to continue toward the objective, ordering Dryberg to flank, while he maneuvered his Battlemaster methodically onward, not wanting to stray too far from Dryberg. Macklin followed her commander closely in her crab, looking to avoid being caught unaware, and Kumalo ordered Shotgun Tom Kelly to hold back in his Marauder to cover their rear in case of an ambush. 90 seconds into their patrol, Kumalo ordered Dryberg forward as he lurched his Battlemaster toward the coordinates given to him by Rollins. Followed closely by his comrades, Kumalo's confusion at the calm battlefield set warning lights going off in his head. He ordered Macklin to retrieve the data, her crab being the fastest of his lance, to which she readily agreed. Seconds passed like hours as Kumalo's lance finally reached the objective with no resistance, and Macklin proceeded to make her way to the coordinates to begin raiding the data core. Followed closely by Kelly and his Marauder, the mech warriors of Kumalo's lance were temporarily distracted as the clouds covered the planet's moon, coating the battlefield in temporary darkness. Rising out of the soil in front of them was a large mechanical hand. It was clearly the hand of a battle mech, followed closely by the torso as it clawed at the dirt for leverage. 3 others joined it, and soon 4 battle mechs had arisen. A wail came over their comm line that caused their blood to run cold, and their stomachs to knot tighter than any of them could ever remember. Hurriedly switching the comm lines off for fear of losing their hearing, they stood transfixed at the sight of what was transpiring before them, clawing their way out from among the graves, covered in dirt and dripping with blood. Despite the comm line being switched off, a bone-chilling voice could be heard, their eyes widening in abject terror as the voice felt like it was prying their way into their psyche with a scalpel and forceps.
You are trespassing on SLDF territory, and you are in possession of stolen SLDF equipment. Theft will not be tolerated. We will safeguard this item for whom it was meant to be collected by. This battlefield will be your final tomb. There is no escape.
They clearly saw the decomposing SLDF insignia on these mechs, but their olive drab green paint had become more of a ghoulish, disgusting green that looked more like rotting flesh. The blood dripping from various holes in their armor and gun barrels ran like a fountain, and the sight of it turned their stomach. Macklin instinctively threw back the throttle on her crab, unable to pull her focus away from the terrifying spectacle before her, aghast as the lead mech went straight for Shotgun Tom Kelly, swinging a massive dagger made out of spare parts and soaked with blood. The best Dryberg could manage, with trembling hands, was to copy Macklin's maneuver, doing his best to train his guns on the mech bum-rushing his comrade, looking on in horror as the enemy mechs continued to push forward, seemingly fearless of any repercussion, while Kelly swiftly backpedaled. Meanwhile, Kumalo was embroiled in his own troubles, a bloodied corpse mech looking to put him under its guns, and it was all he could do to mirror his lance mate's backwards maneuvers. Moving with demonic speed, the smallest corpse mech blew past the members of Kumalo's lance like they weren't even there, maneuvering its way to the rear of Dryberg's machine before he could properly ascertain what was happening. Macklin's shaking caused one of her large caliber lasers to go wide on her target, the other scoring her target's right arm. Returning fire with 2 large lasers of his own, the corpse mech connected with both, leaving no doubt as to the ferocity of his intentions. Dryberg's Thunderbolt was next to take punishment, as a corpse mech seared away over a ton of armor from his mech's arm with uncanny aim from 3 medium lasers, with Dryberg unable to return fire. He focused himself on assisting Macklin against her target, triggering almost all weapons in an attempt to put the ghoul away for good. His heart raced as his particle cannon found the ghoul's cockpit, but excitement turned to terror when the corpse mech seemed completely unfazed, and Dryberg could see there was no one in the ghostly machine's command couch.
Boxcars, baby!
Okay.
Boxcars!
Headshot.
Unfazed by what would normally be a debilitating blow, the corpse mech shrugged off the rest of Dryberg's fire as if it were nothing more than a mere annoyance, and he could only look on, stunned, as it continued operation. Blasting away at the corpse mech assaulting Dryberg, Shotgun Tom Kelly scored a large and medium laser on his target, as well as connecting with his mech's particle cannon. But to his dismay, his barrage did not seem to seriously affect his gangly enemy. Seemingly as if directing the carnage taking place before them, the guns of the hatchet-wielding corpse mech were eerily silent, while Kumalo found himself embroiled in a duel that saw both combatants unable to score more than minor damage on one another, despite their close proximity. Kumalo's lance was still in shock as the corpse mechs pressed relentlessly on. Continuing to back slowly away from their gruesome antagonists, it quickly became apparent that there was no escape, as the hatchet-wielding corpse mech made its play to engage Dryberg. Still struggling to regain his composure, Kumalo marched further backward and tried his best to keep his hand steady to continue firing on his oncoming aggressors, who showed no signs of slowing. While his commander dealt with one threat, Kelly continued to move to support Dryberg, but his recent adversary had departed the fracas faster than Kelly could react, gunning instead for Kumalo, who was now sandwiched between two corpse mechs. Macklin had very little option but to repeat her previous maneuver, but to her shock and dismay, her target blazed past her and joined with his fellows to aid on their assault on Kumalo. Dryberg did not hold back and triggered all of his weapons at his target, striking the corpse mech with all but his Thunderbolt's flamers, throwing off his opponent's aim as it missed with all but 2 medium-class lasers, despite having triggered 3 and a particle cannon. Simultaneously, Kelly bore into Dryberg's adversary, scoring an additional particle cannon and medium laser, but the bile rose in his throat when this combined barrage was weathered by the corpse mech without so much as a waver. None of the usual signs that a pilot was struggling to keep his mech upright. While this deadly dance played out, a far deadlier one took place just over 300 meters away as a corpse mech kept Macklin's attention while the ghoulish duo set upon Kumalo's Battlemaster. A blistering line of fire to Macklin's target from Kumalo was simply not enough to be a knockout blow, with another cockpit shot to the same corpse mech having no effect. They repaid him in hot lead as opposed to cold cash, unleashing a grotesque return report of laser and particle cannon fire that left his 85-ton beast riddled with pockmarks and laser burns. Kumalo's lance finally seemed to get their nerves in order as the initiative swung back their way, but the question on his plate now was whether or not it was too late for them to regain control of the situation. They twisted and turned, trying their best to make their newfound composure work for them. Tapping again into the speed of hell itself, a corpse mech seemed to change positions in the blink of Kumalo's eye, and he soon realized the ghosts of the former SLDF commanders were still full of guile, as they took up defensive positions on various areas of the battlefield in an attempt to force Kumalo's lance to split their fire and thus reduce their overall efficacy. Dryberg lost all composure as the lead corpse mech made a line for Shotgun Tom Kelly's Marauder, bringing up its massive hatchet as it moved squarely into Kelly's 6, blood dripping off of the terrifying weapon. Dryberg lurched forward, being careful not to become a target for the corpse mech's hatchet himself. As shots were traded between foes, Dryberg's fears and Kelly's nightmare was soon realized as the corpse mech brought his hatchet down and sheared through Kelly's Marauder like a butcher's cleaver rending flesh, causing sparks to fly from the jagged hole the corpse mech had carved. Despite maintaining their initiative momentum, Kumalo's lance was still knee-deep in the dead, and the situation was going from bad to worse. They struggled to keep from being surrounded by the ghastly quartet, but this was far easier said than done, as the ghosts of the former SLDF commanders had set themselves up, keenly, making sure to cover the attack vectors of their fellows, leaving Kumalo and his mech warriors very little option in regard to their choice of response, lessening the advantage of being in front of the initiative. The corpse mechs had no such inhibitions, however, and continued to fearlessly engage. Kumalo's efforts continued to be fruitless, and despite Kelly's attempt to aid his comrade, the corpse mechs caught Macklin and Dryberg in their crossfire, and Kumalo watched on in abject terror as Macklin's crab was destroyed under their nightmarish fusillade, the fire of his fellows unable to stop this seemingly inevitable turn of events.
5 more to the center torso rear, yes.
Checking critical.
Oh no, boxcar. He rolled
no.
3 critical hits to the center torso crab. 2 engine hits. Alright, that takes effect this turn.
I still have a PPC.
Okay. PPC. Oh no, he hits the center torso again. For another 10 damage. Roll for your crits. Oh, and he gets 1 crit. It's not a guaranteed kill. Low 3. Is that engine? Yeah, the crab is done.
Macklin's demise sent Kumalo into a panic. In what would be a fateful move, Kumalo took refuge once again against the hillside he had previously used for defilade. Despite Dryberg's best attempts to keep from being surrounded, there was no hope, as the ghosts of the SLDF commanders had hedged their bets, forming a deadly triad around his Thunderbolt and Kelly's Marauder. Kelly was caught like a deer in the headlights as he watched a corpse mech light its jump jets and make for a collision course with Kumalo, and both the lead corpse mech and one of his fellows capitalized, the lead corpse mech looking to flay the steel of his enemy with his hatchet once again. The grisly sight of a corpse mech making an arc to land on his machine shocked Kumalo into missing the soaring corpse mech with his particle cannon, his other weapons scoring armor away from the incoming threat, but were ultimately not enough to stray it from its deadly course. His compatriots were on the ropes as the triple threat formed by the corpse mechs went to work on Dryberg and Kelly, and the pair could barely offer any resistance against the seemingly inexorable tide of blood. His gyroscope damaged and his engine shielding cracked, Dryberg's 65-ton brawler crashed to the ground, unable to stay upright. As the small, spindly corpse mech lashed out with its foot at Dryberg, the lead corpse mech buried its hatchet once again into Kelly's Marauder, creating a deep, jagged gouge in its center torso as it plunged through armor and structural components. Kelly looked to Kumalo just in time to watch the jumping corpse mech land with fiendish accuracy, and a hole opened up among the gravestones as it completed its maneuver.
Death from above, 6 or better.
Nope.
Yeah, you made it.
First 5 to your
Head. Just keep doing it.
Don't keep doing it.
Second 5 to your
Head! Oh no! Oh god, here we go!
Third 5 to your
Oh, I got it all on film! He rolled 666! No, that kills him!
His commander dead, Dryberg ejected to avoid suffering Kumalo and Macklin's fate. Thus began the Showcase Showdown. The next 60 seconds were nothing short of grotesque as the corpse mechs closed in on their final victim. They gave no quarter and asked for none. Kelly did his best to make his final stand, but less than 7 minutes into the engagement, all hope was lost as the corpse mechs had surrounded him. They set upon him, and as their inhuman line of fire tore the Marauder asunder, the soil opened up behind it and swallowed the now ruined mech whole, leaving the battlefield quiet once again, and the corpse mechs sank slowly back into the dirt from whence they had come, leaving us at the portion of the show we call After the Action.
Alright everybody, it's after the action time, folks. You know how we do. You know how Battlebound rolls. Crystal, Tell me how you feel about the game.
I think it's actually pretty good. Some of the ghouls and things like that has really weird stuff going on. You know.
Specifically speaking about not being able to take them out by a headshot.
Headshot them, exactly. The story was really great.
Yep, story was awesome. Bastard coding.
To be fair, there were no awesomes involved in this particular.
Yes,
That is true. There were no awesomes. Chad, man, I know you had something to say. What do you got?
Well, Night of the Living Dead, not Night of the Night Warriors. But it's fun all the same. Any game of Battletech you play, you want because you play.
Yeah, that is right. You know, a day with Battletech is always better than a day without Battletech.
That's right.
And I think this, I'm gonna drop a truth bomb on all of you except you. Igor actually knew what was coming. He played in the game last year, so he knew, and he did a fantastic job, by the way, of acting like he had no clue what was up. Because he just kept asking me, do you need the piloting skill there? No. Is he dead yet? No. So he actually knew, but I put him on your side.
Is that what we're doing? Okay, I see you.
I put him on your side because I wanted to give you at least, you know, an advantage of somebody who knew what was happening, and then just take the three of you who've never done this before. So, with that perspective, I know Igor, a second ago, you said you had a suggestion, so let's hear it.
So since those are zombie mags, maybe you should not erase the damage for next year.
Oh,
or
okay.
at least part of it.
Right.
It would make balanced game maybe in 5 years or so.
Maybe in that line you'd be able to get one. Oh well, the original rules that I made up last year, which we figured was way too brutal, was leg actuator hits don't slow you down, and what was it? You don't have to worry about heat. Last year there was the ghost max, because you're 6 feet underground, you're cold. You never have to worry about heat, right? Well, I just decided no, that was wrong. So this year you saw I tracked my heat, and
still hurt.
Back then, in the first iteration, they could lose both legs and still not be destroyed. They could literally crawl and shoot you and crawl and shoot you, and the only way that you could kill these guys was to blow out their center torso. That was literally the only way they could.
This guy's a psycho.
So, but I understand some folks watching at home going, that's going to be super unbalanced, and oh my god, this is a work in progress, just bear with me. I write these every year, and sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. What was your favorite moment of the game? Anybody? What do you got?
That first turn headshot.
The right off the bat, just
so right off the bat, EPC, right to the head.
I'm sorry, Taylor's death from the like classic. That's just, you know.
It was beautiful, let's be honest.
Yeah.
It was magical.
It was pretty.
And then, on top of that, to get every single shot hitting on the head.
Oh yeah.
I'll never see the like again, I swear.
6. That's never gonna happen again. Yeah. And 6.
I got
next year.
Right. So there's that, and another favorite of mine is this game genuinely did end on turn 13. After, you know, Ogre punched out, or not Ogre, Bear punched out, which I know that you got something to say about that, so let's hear it.
You know, I could have lasted longer because I still had 15 in my leg. Yet, as Taylor points out, he could have still, you know, hatched me. But you know, he might have missed. You never know. But somebody punched out first.
he punched out early, is what you're saying. You know, that
hey, know your limits, man. Know your limits.
That premature ejection, you know. You gotta watch out. Igor, what do you got?
It was pretty fun. Actually, first couple rounds it was almost balanced and we were doing decent.
Chad, what do you got?
Okay, so I'm a realist when it comes to these horror things. Why didn't we just shoot the dad come back when they're coming out of the ground? Like, seriously.
We were shocked.
Yeah, you were shocked. It's like your heart jumps into your throat and you're like, Urgh.
I guess, but that's only in TV. We got a lot of guns, we can shoot them. That's my take.
So what you're saying is, if you had it to do over again, you would be like, the heck with this Frightener's, you know, junk. I'm just gonna start shooting them the second they come up out of the ground.
I mean, that's what a real badass hardcore would do.
Well, okay, that brings me to my next question. If you had it to do over again, anybody, what would you have done different?
Hold back and nuke the whole site from orbit.
Well, okay.
Star League tech be damned.
Yes. Shot a few gravestones on my way up there.
Concentrate on only one of them. Try to get the legs off.
That makes sense. If you had to do over again, what would you have done
Probably stay
differently?
together a little bit closer.
As opposed to breaking up?
What did I say? Don't split the party.
All right, no, the man does have a point. He did say that when they all broke off, so I suppose he legitimately could lay claim to, I told you so. So
Bring some holy water.
right, yeah, the next time have those water cannons just at the ready. So okay, I want you to be honest with me. I don't want you to spare my feelings at all. Okay, tell me, the game, the story, the whole thing, the music. Did you have a good time?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
First one dead, but it's very thematic and it's a good time.
Well, I just want to say you're all very dear friends of mine. I'm very glad that you were here today to play in this game, and it was a joy to run it for you. And I'm very, very glad that you all enjoyed yourself. So thank you all.
Thank you. It was a joy playing it.
All right, Battletech fans, that concludes our Halloween episode. We sure hope that you enjoyed this edition of Tuck Davian's Halloween Havoc, held right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma at Dice Addiction Games & More, the home of Battlebound. We've had a great time today with our 4 featured players, and we sure are looking forward to seeing you next time out on the space lanes on Battlebound!